Surviving the world of Better Call Saul wasn't easy, or well, it wasn't just about how strong or ruthless you were. You needed adaptability, the ability to read people better than they can read you. An art that Nacho Varga mastered, spending years navigating the treacherous waters of the cartel while secretly working against it. But what makes his story truly tragic is that every brilliant move was all for one person, not himself, his father. So let's take a look at how one single man managed to fool some of the most dangerous criminals in the Southwest for years. Quitting the cartel wasn't quite like leaving your 9-to-5 job. Or well, I mean, the option to leave wasn't even an option. The only way out is death, yours or theirs. And well, Nacho had something that made leaving even more complicated. His father, Manuel Varga.
My father has nothing to do with this.
Manuel runs a shop in Albuquerque. He's everything Nacho isn't. Honest, hardworking, legitimate. He built a small business through decades of labor, asking for nothing except to live a quiet, decent life. He represents the legitimate path Nacho could have taken, but didn't. The relationship between father and son is strained because Manuel knows what his son is doing. He's disappointed, even disgusted at times, but he's still his father. This is the weight Nacho has to carry through every decision. It's not only his life at risk, but it's his father's life. So what made Nacho so special? Well, it was his ability to understand exactly what each person needed to see in him. Unlike many criminals who rely on a single approach, Nacho was more like a chameleon, adapting his personality and tactics to whoever stood before him. From the beginning, we see Nacho as Tuco Salamanca's right-hand man, a position that requires a specific kind of intelligence. Cause we all know how Tuco is, volatile, unpredictable, and prone to explosive violence. But Nacho figured out the formula early. Be calm when Tuco is chaotic, be clear when Tuco is confused, and above all, earn his respect through controlled ruthlessness. Nacho operates as Tuco's voice of reason, not challenging him directly, but guiding him away from decisions that would bring attention from law enforcement. Early in the series, we see Nacho's opportunistic side. He approaches a small-time lawyer named Jimmy McGill with a scheme to rob the Kettlemans, county treasurers who've embezzled over $1 million. Nacho sees an opportunity for a big score that could help him get out of the game, and he wants Jimmy's help to pull it off. But Jimmy refuses to participate. Despite his own moral flexibility, he recognizes that this crosses a line. He anonymously warns the Kettlemans that they're in danger. The Kettlemans, seeing Nacho's van surveilling their house, panic and stage their own kidnapping, disappearing with the money to protect it. When Nacho gets arrested as the prime suspect in their disappearance, he calls Jimmy as his lawyer. But this isn't a friendly request, it's more like a threat.
You ratted on me. There will be consequences.
Nacho makes it clear, if Jimmy doesn't get the charges dropped, the cartel will kill him. Suddenly, Jimmy's moral choice to warn the Kettlemans has put his own life at risk. Jimmy is terrified but clever and figures out that the Kettlemans staged their own kidnapping. He finds them camping in the woods, which leads to the charges against Nacho being dropped. And working for Tuco was quite like living life on the edge, never knowing when your own boss might want to kill you. As we all know, Tuco was unpredictable, paranoid when high on his own product, and prone to killing people over the smallest suspicions. Respect only buys you so much safety when your boss is a walking time bomb. Nacho realized that no matter how careful he was, one bad day could mean his last day. But you don't just quit the Salamanca organization. The only way out was to remove Tuco for good. So Nacho did what few would dare. He orchestrated Tuco's downfall, but he knew he couldn't do it all alone. He needed someone who understood the game just as well as he did, Mike Ehrmantraut. Initially, Nacho's proposal was direct and brutal. Shoot Tuco after he leaves the restaurant, but Mike saw the bigger picture that Nacho, desperate for an out, had missed. Any violent death of a Salamanca would trigger a cartel investigation that would inevitably lead back to them. They needed something subtler, something that would remove Tuco without putting a target on their backs. Mike calls the police to the restaurant, fakes a minor accident between his car and Tuco's in the parking lot, and when Tuco comes out to check his car, well, of course he didn't take it lightly, striking Mike multiple times just as the police arrive, which led to him getting arrested. Nacho finally believed he was free of the Salamancas. He'd played it smart. used their own nature against them, and escaped without anyone suspecting his involvement. Except the cartel doesn't work that way. In this world, remove one Salamanca and another takes their place, sometimes someone even worse. Enter Hector Salamanca, and suddenly, Nacho's problems go from dangerous to impossible. Where Tuco was unpredictable, Hector is calculating and ruthless. And unlike Tuco, Hector had discovered Nacho's greatest weakness.
Don Hector, my father, is a simple man.
Hector wants to use Manuel's business as a front to transport drugs across the border. For Nacho, this is the nightmare scenario he's been dreading. His father is an honest man who built his small business through decades of hard work. He wants nothing to do with the cartel. And when Hector tries to intimidate him into cooperating, Manuel refuses and orders Hector out of his shop.
Por favor. Váyase de mi taller.
It's the principled, moral thing to do. It's also a death sentence. Hector doesn't accept rejection, especially not from someone he sees as beneath him. Nacho knows exactly what happens to people who deny the Salamancas. If Hector doesn't go, then Nacho's father is sure to be gone soon. The only way to protect his father is to remove Hector from the game entirely. Not just get him arrested like Tuco this time. Nacho needs something permanent. One night, Hector slams down a mouthful of pills to calm a coughing fit, and Nacho watches as one stray pill hits the floor. In that moment, he has his plan. The next time Hector's heart acts up and he reaches for those pills, they won't save him. The execution requires meticulous planning. Nacho steals Hector's pill bottle and brings it to Daniel Warmald, who gets him identical empty capsules that Nacho fills with ibuprofen. Now comes the hardest part, making the switch without Hector noticing. The moment arrives during a meeting at the restaurant. Nacho deliberately drops money on the ground near Hector as he bends down to pick it up. In one fluid motion perfected through countless practice throws, he snatches Hector's pill bottle from his jacket pocket, then goes and replaces the real pills with the fake ones, and manages to put the pill bottle back in his jacket. Everything went as planned. Now Nacho just has to wait for the moment when Hector's heart condition flares up and he reaches for those pills that won't save him. That moment comes during a high-stakes cartel meeting with Gus Fring and Juan Bolsa. The subject is business distribution and Don Eladio's orders, which increasingly favor Gus's operation over the Salamancas. Hector becomes enraged, screaming about Salamanca money and Salamanca blood. His hand goes to the jacket for the pills. He takes them, expecting relief, but nothing happens. The fake medication has no effect. He collapses, gasping, unable to breathe. This is it. Nacho's plan is working. But then something happens that Nacho never anticipated. Gus Fring, recognizing exactly what's occurring, immediately performs CPR on Hector. While Gus works to save him, Nacho realizes in horror that his plan is falling apart. In a desperate move, he switches the pill bottles back, replacing the fake medication with the real pills. However, Nacho's plan, well, kinda worked. Hector lost interest in his father, as the stroke created bigger worries for him. What Nacho couldn't have known was that switching the pills and putting Hector in a wheelchair would set off a chain of events that would ultimately destroy both Gus and the entire Salamanca family. In Breaking Bad, when Walter desperately needs a way to kill the untouchable Gus, he found his answer in Hector's bottomless rage. The wheelchair, the one Nacho's incomplete plan had put him in, became the delivery device for a bomb. Hector, finally given the chance for revenge, rang his bell one last time and took Gus with him in the explosion. But now back to Better Call Saul and the story of Nacho. Now he thought he was free from the whole game, but now again he was all wrong. Gus discovered who switched the pills. Suddenly, Nacho finds himself in an even worse situation. He's now a pawn in Gus's long game against the Salamancas and the cartel. Gus forces him to become an informant, a man on the inside feeding information back while pretending to still be loyal to the Salamancas. And Gus holds the ultimate leverage. One word to the Salamancas, and not only does Nacho die, but also his father. The brilliant strategist has become someone else's piece on the chessboard. But even in this impossible position, Nacho continues to adapt and survive. Then comes Lalo Salamanca, and Nacho's greatest challenge yet. Lalo was different from everyone else. He was actually happy, or he seemed happy right before he would kill you. a sociopath, a man with a mask, and reading him wasn't quite that easy. Nacho impresses Lalo time after time to gain his trust. Like that one time he retrieved drugs during a police raid, all for gaining Lalo's trust, and he started seeing Nacho as a valuable and capable associate. The result? Lalo started to trust him. In a world where Lalo trusts almost no one, Nacho becomes the exception. He's welcomed into Lalo's home in Mexico, brought to meet Don Eladio, and considered reliable enough to manage operations in Albuquerque. For someone playing a double game, this is both a massive success and a terrifying position. What makes Nacho's deception so remarkable is that he's not just fooling the Salamancas. He's navigating between the Salamancas and Gus Fring, two forces actively working against each other. Every move he makes has to satisfy both sides without exposing his true position to either. When Gus orders him to let assassins into Lalo's compound in Mexico, Nacho knows this is it. His chance to finally be free. He makes the call, lets them in, and waits for the confirmation that Lalo is dead. But the mercenaries fail. Lalo survives and kills them all. Now, Nacho is in the worst possible position. Lalo knows there was a traitor, and Nacho is the obvious suspect.
Alguien nos contrató. No sé qué. Está bien. Yo sí sé.
This brings us to one of the most chilling callbacks in the entire universe. In Breaking Bad, when Walt and Jesse kidnap Saul Goodman in the desert, Saul immediately panics and shouts, "Wasn't me, it was Ignacio, he's the one!" For years, we wondered who was this Ignacio. Better Call Saul revealed that Ignacio is Nacho's real name. Saul believed that Lalo had sent Walt and Jesse to kill him because of whatever happened with Nacho. This one line of dialogue, spoken years before Better Call Saul even existed, confirmed that somehow Nacho's story ended and Jimmy survived to tell about it. After the failed assassination attempt on Lalo, Nacho goes on the run. He ends up at the Motel Ocotillo in Mexico, finding a gun and cash waiting for him, supposedly his escape package. But as he hides there, subsisting on junk food and fear, he realizes the horrible truth. Gus has betrayed him. The cartel knows exactly where he is. Mike, conflicted and guilt-ridden, had planted the motel's phone number in Nacho's father's safe. Knowing the Salamancas would find it, Gus created a trail of fake evidence, making it look like Nacho betrayed the cartel for a Peruvian gang, which would clear Gus of any suspicion. Nacho is trapped with nowhere left to run. Both the Salamancas and Gus want him dead for different reasons. Mike, who has developed a genuine respect for Nacho, is torn between his orders and his conscience. Eventually, Nacho calls Mike and they strike a deal. Nacho will sacrifice himself and confess to everything if Mike personally guarantees his father's protection. It's the only card Nacho has left to play. In the end, Nacho's last act is perhaps his most defiant. He agrees to a meeting in the desert with the Salamancas and Gus present. The cousins are there. Hector is there in his wheelchair, bell ringing furiously. He starts with a confession they want to hear.
It was Alvarez. Los Ojos out of Peru. They paid me to set up your nephew.
This is the story that protects Gus and, more critically, deflects any suspicion away from his father. But then, Nacho goes off script. He tells the Salamancas exactly what he really did. He opened the gate at Lalo's compound and let the assassins in. He switched Hector's medication and caused the stroke that put him in that wheelchair. And it was Gus who saved him. He tells them he hates them, that they're soulless. Every word is defiant. Every sentence stripping away years of pretending to respect people he despises. And then Nacho takes control of the situation. Using broken glass he'd hidden, he cuts through his restraints. In one swift motion, he seizes Juan Bolsa's gun and takes him hostage. But then, before anyone can do something, stop him, Nacho turns the gun on himself and pulls the trigger. Nacho Varga denied the Salamancas their revenge, protected his father with his false confession, and died on his own terms. In a world where he had no control, he took control of the one thing he had left. How his story ended. But the tragedy doesn't end with Nacho's death. Mike later visits Manuel to explain what happened to his son. Manuel, devastated and angry, tells Mike exactly what he thinks. People like him enable the drug trade, then pretend they're different from the killers. People like Mike created the world that took his son.
My boy is gone.
He wanted nothing from Mike. No apologies, no explanations. Just for him to leave. The confrontation becomes Mike's turning point. The guilt-ridden enforcer we see in Better Call Saul transforms into the colder, more ruthless Mike of Breaking Bad. Nacho's death and Manuel's words strip away the last of Mike's illusions. The most heartbreaking aspect of Nacho's story is that he did everything right, and it still wasn't enough. He read people perfectly, adapted flawlessly, took calculated risks that paid off, and survived impossible situations through pure intelligence. Yet every time he solved one problem, circumstances beyond his control created another. He eliminated Tuco, but Hector arrived. He incapacitated Hector, but Gus saved him and discovered the deception. He earned the cousins' trust, but they left. He positioned Lalo perfectly for assassination, but the mercenaries failed. Nacho's tragedy wasn't making mistakes. It was making all the right moves in a system too large, too ruthless, and too unforgiving to escape. Once you're in the cartel's world, there's no clean exit. No amount of intelligence can change that fundamental reality. For years, Nacho Varga fooled some of the most dangerous criminals in the Southwest. Through psychological insight, tactical brilliance, and sheer force of will, he put Hector in a wheelchair, which later led to Gus Fring's death. He survived far longer than anyone in his position had any right to. And most importantly, he protected his father until the very end.